What if I told you that 10-minute walks could be more effective for fat loss than running? It sounds backwards because we've been taught that harder exercise always means better results. But the truth is, when it comes to fat loss, there's another factor that matters just as much. And in this video, I'm going to show you the 10-minute walk protocol I use for myself and with my clients and explain why it can outperform adding another run to your week when it comes to losing weight and then staying lean. Most people who want to lose weight immediately default to running or HIIT, which is high intensity interval training. And I understand it because it feels like you're working harder, so it must be working better. I know I always feel better when I've done a hard workout where my heart rate's been up and I'm sweaty and exhausted after because it feels productive. But the frustrating part is that for a lot of busy professionals, that approach is actually pushing them further away from their goal. Because the body doesn't care how many calories your smartwatch says you burned in a workout, it cares about the signals that workout sent, and running for fat loss can send some pretty unhelpful signals. So, before we get into the protocol itself, I just want to quickly explain the three mechanisms that are at play here that are going to make walking more effective than running for fat loss specifically. Because once you understand why this works, you're never going to look at a walk the same way again. Now, I am Ashley Richmond, a health and performance coach, and I've worked with hundreds of busy professionals, most of them over 40, who come to me because they're frustrated when running and HIIT and other strategies that they're trying to use aren't producing results. The common thread usually isn't a lack of effort. Usually, these people are actually very highly disciplined people. They're at the gym at 5 a.m., they're grinding through the runs that they hate doing. The issue is that their fat loss strategy was creating the very metabolic environment that makes fat loss harder, and walking done correctly is going to reverse that. So let's get into the three mechanisms. The first one is NEAT, or non-exercise activity thermogenesis. This is all the movement you do outside of formal exercise. So it's things like walking to your car, fidgeting in a meeting or at your desk, standing up at your desk, pacing on a phone call. And the surprising thing is that NEAT can account for up to 15 or even up to 50% of your total daily energy expenditure, depending on how active you are at a baseline. That's significantly more than the calories you're going to burn in a 30-minute run. Studies show that NEAT can vary by up to 2,000 calories per day between two people of the same size. So the difference between someone who sits all day and someone who moves throughout the day, even just walking or fidgeting, is massive. When you structure short walks across your whole day, you're keeping NEAT elevated the whole time, not just burning calories for 30 minutes and then collapsing into a chair, which is what most people end up doing. The second mechanism is cortisol, and this is a big one because when you run, especially if you're already stressed from work or lack of sleep or being in a calorie deficit, you spike cortisol. And elevated cortisol signals to your body to hold on to stored energy, particularly around the midsection. Whereas walking, on the other hand, is a low intensity activity that usually reduces cortisol. So you're burning fat without sending the stress signal that tells your body to store more of it. So for my clients who are busy, stress professionals, which is most of them, this alone is often the difference between staying stuck and then finally seeing that belly fat start to move. The third mechanism is what happens when you walk after eating. And this is where the 10-minute protocol really becomes effective. So when you eat, glucose enters your bloodstream. If you're sedentary after a meal, that glucose has nowhere productive to go. So insulin rises and your body stores it, either in your muscle or when that's full as fat. But when you walk for just 10 minutes after eating, your muscles contract and they pull glucose out of the bloodstream without needing much insulin. Studies have shown that even a 10-minute walk immediately after you have that glucose intake is going to reduce that peak blood glucose by about 10% compared to remaining sedentary, so sitting down. And 10-minute post meal walks are more effective at controlling blood glucose than a single 30-minute walk somewhere in your day. So you're literally redirecting energy away from your fat stores and into your muscle 3 times a day instead of 1. And there's a bonus mechanism here too. So walking actually enhances recovery, whereas running creates muscle damage and systemic fatigue. And if you're already resistance training, which we all should be, walking between sessions actually improves blood flow, helps clear metabolic waste, and allows you to hit that next workout harder. Running between sessions does the opposite. So walking isn't just better for fat loss directly, it also lets you train harder in the sessions that build the muscle that's going to make you better at fat burning long term. So there's a few things going on here. So let's talk about what that protocol actually looks like. So it's going to be 3 10-minute walks strategically placed throughout the day. The first walk is within an hour of waking up. This one is less about fat loss directly and more about setting up the day's entire metabolic environment. So morning light exposure helps regulate your circadian rhythm, which influences cortisol patterns, sleep quality, and even insulin sensitivity throughout the day, which we've already briefly talked about. And whether you do this walk fasted or after breakfast. This is an important nuance here. So I tell my clients that this is going to depend on their stress levels. If you're already running on high cortisol, so you've woken up tired, you're feeling wired, you got a lot going on, a fasted walk can sometimes raise cortisol further. In that case, it's better to do it after breakfast, which also gives you the post-meal walk benefits that we've already talked about. But if you sleep well, you're not too stressed, you wake up feeling pretty recovered, a fasted morning walk can encourage your body to tap into fat stores. So that nuance is really important because if we get it wrong, we're going to be doing the opposite thing that we want to be doing. The second walk is going to be 10 minutes after lunch. So this one is your highest leverage walk of the day. Most of my clients eat lunch at their desks and then they sit for another 4 or 5 hours before they go home. That's 4 or 5 hours where glucose from lunch is circulating with nowhere to go. So insulin's going to stay elevated, you're in fat storage mode, and then by 3 p.m., you're tired and craving something sweet. You're probably going to eat something sweet, and then it's going to start the whole cycle again. So a 10-minute walk after lunch is going to change that completely. It pulls glucose into the muscle, which we already talked about, shortens the insulin response, and keeps your body in fat burning mode throughout the afternoon. If you work in an office, can be as simple as walking around the block. If you can't leave your desk, even standing up or moving for a few minutes on a call can make a huge difference. Now, the third walk is after dinner. And this one serves two purposes. So the first is that same mechanism, the post-meal glucose disposal. But second, an after-dinner walk improves sleep quality as well by helping body temperature regulation. And better sleep means lower next day cortisol, fewer cravings, and better insulin sensitivity as well. So that's all the stuff we've already touched on. This is going to accelerate that even more. And there is one nuance here, is that we want it to be 10 minutes and keep it gentle, because a long, intense walk too close to bed can actually be stimulating. And the goal is to clear glucose and signal to your body that the day is winding down. So you want it to be reasonably gentle and not get your body too wired. Now, a question I get all the time, does it have to be exactly 10 minutes? No, the research shows benefits starting at as little as 2 minutes and plateauing around 15. So 10 is kind of like a sweet spot, which is long enough to get the physiological benefit, but short enough that even the busiest clients can fit it in 3 times a day. So if you look at all 3 of these walks, the common theme is that you're not trying to burn calories through suffering. You're sending your body the right signals at the right time to stay in fat burning mode all day long. Most people try to solve fat loss by forcing it harder with more running, more HIIT, more suffering, but the answer is often improving the context instead. Walking does that in a way that running, especially for a stressed, busy person, cannot. Now, if you found this video helpful, subscribe to the channel and like the video. I'd really appreciate it. And if you have any questions about this protocol, just put them in the comments and I'll make sure to get them answered.